Somewhere in Des Moines or San Antonio, there's a young gay person who all of a sudden realizes that she or he is gay, and that child had several options: staying in a closet, suicide, and then one day that child might open a paper and it says homosexual elected in San Francisco, and there are two new options.
Harvey Milk was the first openly gay man to be elected to a public office in the United States when he became a member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in the 1970s. But that isn't where this story starts. After World War II, the political and social climate of opinion shifted greatly towards favoring conservative and conformist ideals. Anyone associated with homosexuality had a target on their back. The American Psychiatric Association declared that homosexuality was a sociopathic personality disturbance. Cures for this so-called disorder included castration, lobotomy, and electroshock therapy. Homosexuals were forced to hide their true self because for the majority of America, they truly were monsters waiting in the closets of children's bedrooms. Those who identified as gays and lesbians were such a dangerous concept because their secret sexuality made them vulnerable to exploitation. It would seem that one would rather give up government secrets than have their own secret life exposed. It was frightfully important that the authority not be breached, and so anyone risky had to be eliminated. Joseph McCarthy, most well known for his involvement in the Red Scare, was also instrumental in the issuing of Executive Order 10450 in 1953, which banned the employment by the government of sexual perverts, on the basis that homosexuals were unstable and therefore a security risk. Eventually, this exclusion covered 20% of the American workforce. The homosexual community was on the rise, and their anger was too. This is shown in the Stonewall riots, which were to many a great exciting point for the American gay rights movement. In 1969, after the Liquor Authority in New York prohibited serving homosexual customers on the basis that they were disorderly, a disturbance erupted at a popular gay bar, the Stonewall Inn, which was often stormed by police officers in an attempt to expunge the area of sexual deviance. On the night of June 28th, the bar was again raided by the police, but this time the furious gay youth confronted the officers in the streets. This event led to a riot lasting 3 days. Homophobic discrimination was common throughout the United States, and those belonging to the LGBT community weren't safe. To be young and realize you were gay in the 1970s was to await an adulthood encumbered with dim career prospects, fake wedding rings, and darkened bar windows. But the 1970s also brought a massive influx of gays to San Francisco. A small area called the Castro bloomed, and many gay men flocked there. San Francisco was a very tolerant place, yet gays in the area still faced massive opposition. This is where Harvey Milk started his campaign. In 1972, Harvey Milk moved to San Francisco with his significant other, Scott Smith. The two of them opened a small shop called Castro Camera. Shortly after, people from the area, old ladies to gay youths, were coming to Harvey's shop for advice. In 1973, a little after a year since Harvey moved, the long ponytail and curly mustache-clad Milk announced his candidacy for the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Though Milk was never a lawyer and had no experience in politics, his vast variety of past careers helped shape him into a charming, persuasive candidate. Milk stood for all those who felt the government no longer understood the individual and no longer respected individual rights. He was exploring a new area of politics, not untouched but not stable. It was the first serious attempt for such a thing in history. Harvey gained quite a bit of support. He even got a press release, a very big deal considering he had a difficult time finding a media supporter because of his sexual orientation. The press wasn't the only problem. Harvey clashed with many homophobic individuals. Despite his efforts, Harvey was unable to gain a seat, yet he fared much better than was expected of someone with so little money and recognition. For the 1975 election, to increase his credibility, Harvey cleaned up. He cut his hair, stopped smoking marijuana, and discontinued visiting gay bathhouses. He also aided President of the California State Senate, George Moscone, in running for mayor, who in return supported Milk. His list of endorsements grew, and so did his chances. But Harvey, along with 5 other possibilities, had to beat at least one of the 6 members up for re-election. Unfortunately, Harvey came in 7th. In 1976, the Harvey vs. the Machine campaign was announced. This time, Harvey was going for the 16th Assembly District, but again came in short. But this wasn't the end for him, because he demanded to be recognized. In 1977, Harvey again ran for the Board of Supervisors, and this time it was made feasible by the fact that the districts now elected their own supervisors. On November 8, 1977, Harvey Milk had finally done it. He was elected supervisor for District 5. Milk had his chance to make a real difference. He would be able to exchange ideas in a large political setting and spread acceptance for homosexuals. First, he would change San Francisco, and things could only go up from there. Milk's ambitious reform agenda didn't only include the LGBT community. He worked to improve low-cost housing, tax codes, daycare centers, and the strength and safety of neighborhoods. Harvey started simple with a bill called the Pooper Scooper Law that required dog owners to pick up their pets' excrement. He threw his support behind this bill to show that he was like any other supervisor and to help with a real problem. From there he went bigger, a bill outlawing sexual orientation discrimination. It took a lot of persuasion, but it passed with only one vote against it, from Supervisor Dan White. This showed that the political power of gays was rising. It was also a fantastic win for the homosexual community. The bill was enthusiastically signed by Mayor Moscone and Harvey Milk. In the summer of '78, attendance at the Gay Freedom Day Parade and the Gay Pride March ballooned. Participants were asked to carry signs distinguishing where they came from to show how far they had risen to make it to the Castro. The greatest triumph for Milk was defeating Proposition 6, otherwise known as the Briggs Initiative, because it was proposed by John Briggs. The proposition, had it passed, would have made it legal to fire not only gay teachers, but any member of a public school staff that supported gay rights. Briggs argued that because homosexual couples couldn't reproduce, they were invading the public school system, brainwashing the students, and recruiting them for the homosexual cause. Milk countered with the statistic that a majority of pedophiles were heterosexuals, and jokes like, "If it were true that children mimicked their teachers, you'd sure have a hell of a lot more nuns running around." Harvey urged people to come out or reveal their homosexuality to their family and to their employers. Harvey had an ever-increasing amount of followers and was able to shut down the dreaded Briggs Initiative. But like many good things, Harvey's time in office didn't last. On November 27, 1978, a former firefighter, police officer, and county supervisor of the city of San Francisco, Dan White, bypassed the security of San Francisco City Hall by entering through a basement window. White made his way to Mayor George Moscone and Harvey Milk's offices and shot and killed them both. The devastated city fell into a deep state of mourning. By the evening, thousands of people marched down Market Street and then convened for a candlelight vigil in remembrance of the two deaths. 5 months later, Dan White was sentenced to a mere 7 years in prison, though he only served 5 on account of good behavior. His attorney argued what has become known as the Twinkie defense, which testified that White had been so stimulated by the large consumption of sugars the night before the murder that he could not be held accountable for his actions. On May 22, 1979, the day of the verdict, the White Nights riots erupted between the LGBT community of San Francisco and the local police. Over $1 million of damage was done to City Hall and police vehicles. Even Milk had anticipated the opposition to his place on the Board of Supervisors. He had recorded a specific will to be played had he been assassinated.
This is to be played only in the event of my death by assassination.
Milk's death magnified his fame and his legacy, yet his actions and his message deserve a place in history all the same. He left a great impact on the American gay rights movement and the opportunities for gays and lesbians in politics. He spread tolerance and the value of equality for the LGBT community, an example of exchange in that he reached a new audience and brought in politics. Harvey also explored the American governmental system as a total outsider and the first of someone with his sexual orientation. Since Harvey Milk's death in 1978, all 50 United States have had a gay person hold a public office position, and in this past summer, the Supreme Court of the United States legalized gay marriage in America. Milk was not only a champion for the homosexual cause, but he worked for all individuals, and he helped those who had trouble speaking out find a voice. In 2009, Barack Obama awarded Harvey Milk the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his contributions to the gay rights movement. Many people have captured his story in books, movies, plays, operas, memorials, schools, and even a holiday. So everyone should take a moment on May 22nd, Harvey Milk Day, to remember all the things this man not only stood for, but died for.
And you, you've got to give him hope.